Hi, this is Fred Migliore. I'm the host of FM Odyssey, along with the journalist, author, and co-producer Steve Matteo, the co-producer part of FM Odyssey. Hi, Steve. How are you today?
Good, Fred. It's great to be here.
Well, today we're going to be discussing something that I'm looking forward to because we talked about the acoustic sounds UHQR high fidelity vinyl albums. And it seems like now there's a couple other companies that are starting to jump into that. And I know Mobile Fidelity is kind of doing that, but they're calling it a one step with digital. But Rhino is now doing that also with analog to analog recordings. And they are obviously taxing what is part of them now, which is the Atlantic Records catalog.
Well,
And
that's one of them. Yeah.
yeah, that's one of them, and they have so many others. So today we're going to talk about the high fidelity Rhino series, and why don't you give us in a nutshell what that actually means?
Okay. So, I mean, just quickly, Rhino Records was an independent company that was doing reissues before anybody really thought a lot about it.
That's
You
right.
know, pre CDs also, And then eventually what happened is Warner Brothers and related labels bought Rhino many years ago. And what they do now is they primarily work on reissuing albums or CDs related to Warner Brothers, Elektra Records, Atlantic Records, Reprise, those labels for the most part. And so now what's happening is Rhino is realizing that there's so many of these audiophile labels out there. I mean, it started with Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab, and then of course you've got Acoustic Sounds and everything that they're involved in. There's so many people who do this. And the basic idea is, first of all, it's vinyl. And second of all, it's using the original analog tapes. There is no digital step in these records, okay? They take the original analog tapes and they remaster them. They do a lot of work in terms of creating excellent pressings of these records also. That's the other really key thing about it. It isn't just taking, a really good analog tape and then just pressing it and putting it out. The other main thing is, and now what I'll do is I'll show one of these, is the way that they put these things together. You can't necessarily see everything about this, but this is a beautiful, what's called a Stoughton jacket. And they created it with this Obi on the side. And that's not Obi from Alice's restaurant. It's a different thing. This is what an Obi is.
Or Kenobi.
Okay. Which is something that really started with Japanese pressings of records, pre-CD. Okay. And so this is the Rhino High Fidelity series, and they're 180-gram vinyl records. They're cut from the original analog master tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. And Kevin is the Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky of mastering. I mean, he is the guy. He is absolutely the man. There's no question about it. These are pressed at Optimal Media, which is in Germany. These are the best pressed records you can find. Okay. They're limited edition and numbered to 5,000. And what's really nice about these is, other than how beautiful they look, which you can't necessarily see here, but they give you the beautiful gatefold. And then in each one, and I'm gonna try to do this without fumbling around too much here. Um, Inside here, they give you this insert. It's a 4-page insert, and it has, all kinds of liner notes and all kinds of information and pictures of tape boxes, which geeks like us love to see, the original tape boxes.
Mhm.
Everybody forgets that, in the everything pre, say, 1982, everything came out on vinyl and everything was recorded on tape. You know, if you know what that is. Some people are like, what's that? I have no idea what that is. But literally, they cut everything on tape on these big tape recorders. So this is, these are the real tapes. They still have these tapes. So anyway, they've done a number of these, and we just picked out a couple here. Fred, I tell you what, maybe now that I've given kind of a background, Would you like to talk about the two that you have over there?
Yeah, absolutely. The first one, and I really, really like this one a lot, is the Fleetwood Mac album that came out. I believe it was in July 11th of 1975. And this is a like a gatefold also, which the original one never was. And so it has the info, all like what Steve was talking about. One of the things I was really excited about with this one is even back in 1975, if you recall, Steve, we used to take this album as a test album to audio stores when they had audio stores that you actually went into, and they had all kinds of audio equipment, and the people that worked there actually cared about the type of system that you want. They'd say, well, what kind of room are you going to put this in? And is there a carpet in there? And so this was the album that we would take when it originally came out because the sound quality of it was amazing. And I've told people for a very long time that to this very day, before this new one came out from Rhino, that I have an original pressing of that when it first came out in 1975 because I didn't want to get generations later because I knew that they would lose sound quality. And I still have told people up to this very day that that album still sounds better than probably just about everything else that has come out. And what Rhino basically did with this when they released the high fidelity part of this, their series, is they brought it back to the way that original album sounded in 1975, and it is just absolutely amazing. One of the other things I like about the Rhino Hi-Fi series, like you were mentioning with the vinyl, that they're actually pressing it in Germany, and it's got to, for me, who's an audiophile collector, like we talked about last week with the UHQR stuff and Steely Dan. They their vinyl is so quiet. I mean, and so quiet, not a pop or a crackle or surface noise or not.
And
It's like
flat.
when the song is over, it's dead silence. And I really, really like that. And I wanted to get this one also, which is the Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones album, which came out in November of 1967 from the Monkees. And I wanted to get this because one of the things I was most fascinated with when I was reading about what Rhino did with this is the first time that they actually had access to the original master tapes before they were EQ'd, before they were compressed to you know what, and to kind of give it that AM sound on it. So now when you listen to this, it actually has a bottom to it. It actually sounds like real musicians. It's all that stuff, all that ear fatigue is completely gone now from the way all of that stuff was recorded. That made it very hard to listen to, in my opinion. So those are the two that I have from Rhino High Fidelity, and they're very consistent. Both of them are really good.
Yeah. The Monkees, I mean, that's a really good album. I mean, that's many people would say that's probably their best album. And it deserves, to be released this way. I don't
Right,
think there's
right.
any question about it. And there's just at this point they're really kind of owning what they're doing and they're choosing good songs and
Hmm.
it's great production. It's very 60s sounding, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. So anyway, so moving on here. Um, here's another one that uh, just sounds unreal. Okay. And this is Van Morrison, his band and street choir. Most people know obviously Astral Weeks, they know Moon Dance, but I mean, this one is just, it's made for this. The sound on this is
Because
just
I
incredible.
remember when it first came out, it was just a horrible sounding record. And the other thing that people may not realize is that that record was overshadowed because Van Morrison released two albums in that year. You know what the first one was?
Hard Nose the Highway.
No,
Oh,
Moondance.
Moon Dance was this, right? That was the
Right, right.
same.
So Moondance came out in February, and this one came out like in November. So, with all of the hoopla that Moondance got, this record became overshadowed, and a lot of people didn't even know that it came out, but it's really, really great. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted
No,
to
that's
check.
fine. And the song that people will know from this one is Domino is on here, which was,
Hmm. And
that
Blue
was a
Money.
song.
Blue Money.
Yeah, not as much. I mean, Domino is a song that got, a lot of FM airplay, that if you just were a casual listener to FM radio at that time. But yeah, Blue Money is certainly another song. I mean, this is just and and Van Morrison smiling on the back. You can't really see it.
Hmm.
Anytime you can find a picture of Van Morrison smiling, I mean, that's a unique moment right there. So
That's
he's
it. That's,
obviously happy, and
hmm.
the album is a very up album. It's a
Yeah,
very
it's a fun
happy
record.
album.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, so we did the Doobie Brothers, we did Van Morrison. I'm gonna sort of do these two almost together. Okay.
Hmm.
So this would turn out to be the very last album from Graham
Oh,
Parsons,
wow.
Greatest
1973.
Angel. And
1973.
just, he only did two solo albums. I mean, obviously he was a founding member of the International Submarine Band, who many people feel is truly the first country rock band, not the
Mhm.
Byrds. And then, of course, he is on Sweetheart of the Rodeo by the Byrds, the one and only album that he was on. And then him and Chris Hillman left the Byrds and they formed the Flying Burrito Brothers, of course. And he made two solo albums. And this was the second one. One of the things that was so eerie about this album. So he died, I think, before this actually came out.
Yeah, he
The,
did.
the last song on this album, which would be the last song we ever hear from him, is called "In My Hour of Darkness." And it's a heartbreaking record. And I mean, the one before this is also great too. It's called GP. And very much part of this album and why it's so great is because of Emmylou Harris.
Right.
Chris Hillman was actually the one who really discovered her she was playing in a club in Washington, D.C. And he said to Graham, "You've got to hear this girl. She's amazing." And I mean, her career is
Right, right.
extraordinary. So they
Hmm.
also released this album of hers,
Hmm.
Luxury Liner, which is a classic album. What's so interesting about both of these albums really is that it's the music is almost undefinable. I mean, it's the shorthand is it's country or it's country rock. I mean, that's
Hmm.
kind of the shorthand. But there's so much going on here. I mean, Emmylou on her first albums, um, and this was her third album. Um, she mixes rock and folk and country, and she creates something, that's incredibly unique. And of course, that voice, I mean,
Hmm.
one of the truly great voices. And so have these albums together. They put these out together to listen to them. And I've already reviewed these for the Vinyl District many months ago. So I reviewed them together because it just made sense. And it's just really incredible. I mean, it's just all her early albums,
Hmm.
Pieces of the Sky and all of
Right.
those early albums. Elite Hotel, I think, is the other early album, are just, and she
Hmm.
does country covers and folk and rock. She does For No One, the Beatles song. She covers that. And you know, high fidelity records like this are perfect because they're quiet records. And so you want to hear quiet. You want a flat, silent record. You don't want scratchy, records. You want it
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be pristine
Hmm.
because it's a quiet record. And so really highly recommend these two albums they're just timeless albums
Right.
too.
So now we're to the part of the program here where you have to pick out an album that I'm not going
Well,
to. How do we
I
do
did have
that?
one more. I'll just throw this in. I have one more here. So this is from Yes. I haven't actually listened to this one yet, but this is the Relayer album. So for all you prog fans out there, because I know we covered rock and country rock and hippie rock or whatever you want to call it, but for you prog fans, I mean, this music is very well suited also. So anyway, I just threw that. Just
All
threw.
right. So explain once again for people that have not seen these videos what we do at the end of them.
All right,
So
so what we're just doing is him and I are just picking out a random record just to show you from our collection, uh, just to have some fun. And maybe it's something you know about, maybe it's something you don't know about. And we're just doing this for fun. And if the both of us pick the same record, we're going to do two next time. That's the challenge here is to not do the same thing because our tastes are so similar. So do you want to go first since I've been talking so much here? Maybe
Yeah, sure. And the idea is we don't know which record each of us
right,
have picked. So
exactly.
I have picked an album that came out on the Columbia record label in 1973, and it's J.F.
Ah,
Murphy and Salt,
that's a good one.
and it's called The Last Illusion. They put out three albums when they came out, 1970, 72, and 73. Their second album was on Elektra, and their first album, I don't recall what it was on, but the only place that unfortunately, this record never got reissued. It never got remastered. The only place that you're going to find this is used. You're going to have to go to Discogs or something like that to find this. But, Steve, I would not bring this to the attention of folks if it wasn't worth the hunt for this. And they are available. You just have to look for them. And I'll tell you a funny story about this. A couple of years ago, our other co-producer, Paul Porzio, called me and said, "Hey, I'm going to a record convention. Is there anything that you want?" And I said, "See if you can find me a new copy of J.F. Murphy and Salt, because the one that I had since 1973, and it's been through like a lot of history, like both of us have been through."
Hmm.
And so he called me from the record convention. He said, "Well, I have some bad news and I have some good news." And I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, "I wasn't able to find a copy of J.F. Murphy and Salt, but I was able to find a sealed copy of it. Do you want me to get it for you?" So anyway, so I would highly recommend that you get this album. It's a, I don't know, of rock kind of. They have such a unique sound to themselves. They did New York City, Home, which was a huge staple on FM radio, especially on WNEW FM in New York, WLIR in Garden City, Long Island. And I know that it got played in a lot of other places, but very jazz rock, but very unique sounding. And every song is like, I can't get up. I can't get up until the record's over. So that's the one that I picked. J.F. Murphy and Salt, The Last Illusion is the name of it.
That's a good one. I think part of us doing this is there's music that they just don't play anymore on the radio
All right.
for
So what do you have?
whatever reason. So anyway, what I thought I would do is because we're on the high fidelity thing here, I'm gonna get this out. So I speaking of mobile fidelity sound labs, I grabbed one of my mobile fidelity sound lab records. And I think that most people will recognize this as soon as I hold it up, and it's Wheels of Fire from Cream. And it's just an amazing album. Of course, Cream, a very short-lived group. Uh, you
They
know,
put out a lot of music in that short time.
right. I mean, I guess there was really just three studio albums. So this is one album, I believe, of studio and one album of
Live.
live. I think mostly recorded at the Fillmore. And if you can find these, I mean, this is a mint condition record. I don't think I've ever even played it, or if I did, I played it only once. It has the gatefold, that incredible gatefold on the inside, which
Hmm.
is hard to really show here, but I mean, it's hard to explain to people how revolutionary Cream was when they first came out in 1966. The Jimi Hendrix Experience and the Who sort of defined a new sound in rock. And they were all technically trios, even though the Who were four members. Daltrey didn't play an instrument. So this is just incredible. I mean, most people would say Disraeli Gears, the album before this, is their best album. And then the first one's called Fresh Cream. And then there's a lot of live things, Goodbye Cream. And then, there's a
Hmm.
lot of live stuff that was put out, many repackaging. But if you can find one of these babies, and I realized again, I'm picking a record that was originally released in America on an Atco Records. I seem to be on an Atco Records binge
Hmm.
here,
There
just
you go.
randomly.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for staying with us as we share some of our history of music and the records that we love and we know that you love. And we have to remind these people, don't forget to like it and don't forget to subscribe to this video. And as our dear friend that we miss so much, the legendary New York radio personality Pete Fornatel from WNEW FM in New York would say, more to come.
See you next time.